Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is the Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast brought to you live. Right now, we are live on Facebook, and I am so honored to have this guest with me here. His name is Mark Evans, the author of one of my new favorite books right here, Mark, The 10-Minute Business Owner. Mark's written a lot of good books, but this one I like a lot because he talks about experiencing freedom, building wealth, and creating a life worth living. It's not just about the money. It's about the things that the money can buy you. It's about the freedom. It's about the time with the family. It's doing the things you love to do. It's not about working 60, 70, 80, 100 hours a week. It's not about the hustle or the grind, right? It's about just living life, man. And Mark is, I think of all the guys that I know in the real estate investing business, Mark is one of those guys way up there. I was like, man, I want to be like Mark someday. You know what I'm saying? I want to be like Mark when I grow up. How you doing, Mark?
Great, Joe. How you doing, buddy? Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to my Facebook stuff. And I'm glad to have you here. We've been friends for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And what's funny, guys, Mark is he's a world traveler, right? Been all over the world. And he calls me up a few years ago and says, hey, I'm going to be in St. Louis. You want to have lunch? I said, heck yeah. What are you doing? He said, well, I'm going to be there for a couple months. I'm like, what? Why? He goes, well, just traveling around the world. And so I think it was maybe a month. Weren't you here for?
Yeah, it was for like 40 days. Yep.
40 days. And this was right when Airbnb, I think, started coming on the scene. And he found this great place to stay in like one of the nicest, swankiest parts of St. Louis. And he had his Rolls Royce. Or is it your Bentley? One of those two?
Rolls.
Shipped to St. Louis so he could drive it around while he was here, And but I got to spend some cool time with Mark while he was here and his beautiful wife, Deanna, who's amazing. And I think she's the better, smarter half, Mark. Did people tell you that?
Well, all the time because it's the truth.
Yeah, okay, good. And so Mark is also known as the DM, the deal maker. He's doing a ton of deals right now. And I think you're in Ohio right now, right?
Yep, that's all. I've been here 22 years.
Right. But your main home base is in Florida, right?
Yeah, Palm Beach, Florida is where the office is at.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So, Mark, can I ask you some questions about like how you got started in the business?
Absolutely. I stayed up all night studying for this, so I'm ready.
Come on now. So how'd you get started in real estate? And you talk about, by the way, let me tell you guys, go to get this book, The 10-Minute Business Owner. You get it on Kindle. Or do you have a website, Mark? People can go and get it right now?
Well, again, go to Amazon and get it right there. I mean, Amazon's the hub for all that stuff, so no need for me to create a website and all that. It's on Amazon. And what's cool about that, too, is 100% of the net proceeds go to charity as well, Joe. So it's a cool thing. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Right. So Mark talks a lot about in this book how he got started in the business, but I was hoping you could share that, Mark, with, you grew up with not much, right? And you came from nothing. But talk about that.
Yeah, man. Listen, I have amazing parents. I grew up small town Ohio, hour east of Columbus, and laying in bed dreaming about making $100,000 a year. I'd figure out okay, it takes, if I can make $20 an hour at this many hours and this many months and this much time in the year, I could make $100,000. And then you make $100,000. You're like, please, Lord, if I could make $500,000, you play that game with yourself. But small town, trying to figure it out. Barely graduated high school, never went to college. Always was kind of hustler though, kind of had how can I do more, be more, have more, and all that fun stuff. And just tried to navigate that. And real estate for me, honestly, Joe's the equalizer of dummies. There's a lot of people in real estate that are not that smart, including myself. It's just that we have, we have skill set that we've created over the last 22 years to allow us to go out, find deals, put the deal under contract, actually close the deal and make money.
Nice. Well, what got you started into real estate? How did you figure that out?
True story. I was like I said, it's I was living with my parents. I was 18 years old, just getting ready to graduate high school actually, and I saw an infomercial. Russ was on TV. It's like, get rich in real estate, blah 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 blah. And to me, it just made sense. Real estate, you could touch, see it, and feel it. Everyone has a house they need to live in, and it really wasn't about could I didn't have all those questions like, well, I have no money, I have no credit. It's like, how do I do this? I started figuring out becoming resourcefulness, and I had a seamless gutter company, a little contracting company, 2 days after high school. So what happened is these guys would pull up in a Porsche and a cigar, hand me some cash to do gutters. And I'm like, what do you guys do? They're like, oh, we're investors. We're real estate investors. They kept saying that. And again, I'm not that smart, but after I hear 3 or 4 times, I'm like, well, I should probably look into this deeper. And then I went to a 2-day, 3-day seminar, and I spent every dime I had to go and some. And I was like, I got to figure this out. And I saw him make a phone call. True story. I saw him make a phone call, and the lady's like, I'm done. We're getting a divorce. Just take my house. And I was like, I can do that. I didn't need to learn anything else. I was like ready to go.
Was this Russ Whitney?
Yep.
Wow. What year was that?
1996.
Wow. You know what, Mark? I've said this often so many times. Gurus get a bad rap. Like everybody is targeting them, blasting them, saying they're just selling courses to make money. They make more money selling courses.
Yep.
It's easy to criticize and pull down the guy at the top. But you know what? I thank God for gurus, because if it wasn't for the Russ Whitneys, the Carlton Sheets, the Ron LeGrands, you can name 5 or 10 other, the Tom Vu's. Remember Tom Vu? Is that his name?
Yeah.
If it wasn't for, now I don't know about Tom Vu, but if it wasn't for those kinds of guys, like I would have never learned about real estate.
Right.
You wouldn't have learned about it. You wouldn't have taught the people that you've taught who are doing it now, who are making 6-7 figures a year, who are living the life that they want to live because of real estate. So I love hearing those stories of people that get started like that. You know what I'm saying? Would you agree?
Well, no, I agree 100%. I think the reason a lot of people talk smack about them is because they like to look to blame someone else, right? It's like, oh, it didn't work. Like, and you've talked to a lot of people over the years to coach them. I always love the person. It's like, I've taken 5 courses. They've all ripped me off. And I'm thinking, okay, wait, 5 times you've been ripped off? Maybe there's a common thread in these conversations or these connections. So until people take responsibility for their actions and understand, first of all, even if you get a crappy mentor, you can learn something from that.
Oh my God.
Always.
Totally.
And not only that, most of this stuff is repackaged and repurposed information. The real great coach isn't necessarily giving you the techniques and tactics. They're also giving you the confidence and the mindset shifts. That's what great mentors do. So, I'm always learning. Listen, I don't want to say ripped off because I've made the decisions, but I've paid money for things that didn't get my expectations met. But again, that's an expectation thing, not necessarily a reality thing. So it's a skewed conversation. But I do believe you're 100% correct. I would not be sitting here if I didn't have mentors in my life, 100%.
I agree. Totally agree. And sometimes if a student tells me they've had 5, I always ask them before I let them come on as a client, what are some of the courses that you've bought? And if their list is like longer than 5 and they still haven't done deals yet, I'm really leery about bringing them on. But you're absolutely right. Mentors are really, really important.
Oh yeah.
Talk about, would you some more, like after you went to that seminar, Mark, you started learning about real estate. I'm sure you made a lot of mistakes. What were some of the early coaches that you had after that seminar that helped you kind of grow in the business?
Yeah, first of all, I still make a lot of mistakes.
Still do.
The mistakes are just bigger now, which is financially. But no, at the end of the day, for me, honestly, Joe, I really started understanding, just from going to like the RIA clubs and these different real estate clubs, like everyone's asking the same questions, all the same. They're asking the same questions just a lot of different ways. So to me, I didn't see real estate as the problem. I saw it as mindset and business building as the problem. Right? Real estate's a very easy concept. Houses for sale. You can buy for X. You can sell for X if you put X amount of work in it. It's a very simple business. But to me, people overcomplicate it again because they're fighting in their head like, am I worth it? Am I not? If it's such a good deal, why would someone sell it to me? That's a confidence thing. That's not a reality thing. So for me, I just kind of focused on coaches that would help me become a stronger person in a mindset, like Psycho-Cybernetics. I don't know if you've ever read that book. Great book. Magic of Thinking Big, Think and Grow Rich. Like I've read over 5,000 books. Probably 85-90% are about business and mindset.
That's good. I'm making notes, by the way, while you're talking, because you keep on reminding me of the other questions I want to ask you. All right, so talk about in your book, you're talking a lot about the real estate business you kind of created while you were first getting started, and you're working your butt off, right? You were having a lot of success, but you were working way too hard. Talk about how you got into that and what were some of the mistakes you were making.
Well, again, coming where I come from, my parents still work hard. It's something that's ingrained in us, right? I'm a Midwest boy, old school, again, by the way, I'm not afraid of working hard. My biggest fear is working hard without big outcome, working myself to the bone. So to the point where actually I'd go to my grandmother's house at 2 p.m. with flowers, take her to lunch. And she's like, why aren't you working? Your grandfather worked 5 jobs to take care of the family, blah, 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 blah. It's almost people and Gary Vee and all these guys, and there's nothing wrong with this. This is a lopsided conversation a little bit, but like at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with working hard, but we almost glorify people that work themselves to death. But in the same sense, we say, oh, but your health is worth so much more and blah, 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 blah. Well, which is it?
That's a good point. Real good point.
So for me, it's like, I just kind of focused on, like I said, just trying to figure out how to like grow this business to the next level.
So what did your business look like? I mean, how many deals were you doing? What kind of deals were you doing?
Well, I was using yellow notepad and paper. My first 5 years, I was actually just buying to acquire to hold. And just, again, what I just learned one strategy, buy and hold, because I just wanted cash flow. So I ended up getting about 65, 70 doors. I almost went bankrupt because of it, because buy and hold's great, but plus $200 a month times X is awesome, as long as they're all paying.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the city found out I owned a bunch of property. So then they started coming over and just really harassing me and forcing me to become even like a slumlord, honestly. Yeah. So I was very embarrassed of it, and I was spending every dime. There was one point in my career I was sitting in an efficiency apartment with no electricity and gas with a candle reading a book. This is when you had to go to libraries, by the way, right? So all this stuff was going on, but I was just excited because I knew real estate is the out. So that's how I learned wholesaling to the next level. So, I kind of would do wholesaling. I didn't know that was what it was called back then. But, I mean, for me to work, literally 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day, it's not – but I was young, 18 to 22, it didn't bother me at all. But, when my grandmother passed away, October 8, 2005, that was a turning point for me on a massive level. I was 27 years old. I was like, oh, my God, life is short, and I want to enjoy it while I can.
Okay, good. So you talk about that transition when you realize, working this hard for money isn't worth it, right?
Yep.
There's got to be a smarter way to do this. What was your transition from that? Did you just sell all your rentals? Did you start wholesaling? What were you doing?
No, I was doing a lot of rehabs. I had rentals and I was doing wholesaling. I was doing all three. But the thing is I was doing it. I had a team, but everything had to come through me, right? I was a micromanager at a high level. I would wake up figuring out how to pay people less to make more. That was kind of my mindset. That's what I was taught. Yeah. So, again, until I really understood the financial roles of how to grow, like I was always trying to figure out how to suppress people to turn them into mules, right? Just like they're either going to die or quit on me at the end of the day. It didn't matter. How much can I get out of them? I was very selfish. So I was a very immature business owner. And as I kept growing, I just started transitioning. Dina, my wife, she's like, hey, we should take a trip for a week, and then turned into a month, and it turned into multiple years. But for me, it was like the scariest thing I ever did. I actually had to let go. I had to give control away. I had to let things happen on purpose, like knowing that I'm going to lose money. And it was so foreign to me because if something would break, I would jump in and fix it. It was like Superman effect. I know a lot of times people are talking about like, I feel like a firefighter every day. And I talk about this in the book. Well, you're probably not a firefighter. You're an arsonist creating your own fires. And that's what I would do. I'd create all these fires to make me feel like bigger and better about myself. Like if I would just give them the rules and let them go implement, I would never have to hear about it. So that's kind of how it progressed.
By the way, I apologize for calling her Deanna. It's
Did you call it?
I called her Deanna earlier.
Oh, did you? I didn't even notice.
Don't tell her I said that.
We won't. Facebook will, but we won't.
All right. So when did you decide, I got to get out of Ohio. I got to start traveling. Did you move to Florida at that point, or did you really start traveling at that time?
December 31st, 2005 is literally Dina and I left. We went to South Beach, Florida for 1 month. I had no clue what was going to happen. I had zero. That turned into 6 months in South Beach. And then we started traveling to different places across the country and then started going out of the country. So
what did your business look like at that time in 2005 when you went to Florida? This is right before the market collapsed. So things were going well, it seemed like, right?
Oh, yeah. Things were going well. They actually went better for us when the market did collapse. And we're expecting it to happen again, which we're excited about. But what
By
happened?
the way, I'm very excited about that too, and that sounds really narcissistic, but
Yeah, for your model, it's amazing, right?
yeah.
So what happened is half of my team left me, or I fired them, right? Because they were very weak. I made them look stronger than they were because I could step in and fix their problems and their weaknesses. So half of them left. I had a great lady leading it, Vanessa, till mid 2007. So she was there during that whole transition. She was literally leading the pack. Peter's my new Vanessa back in the day, COO, if you will. And what happened, we were just hiring and, just keeping deals simple. I could do back then it was telecalls. It wasn't even video. We would do telecalls and I would be selling houses or property via telecall, commercial lots, houses, and all the above. And again, I figured out I didn't need to have all these massive marketing pieces. The only thing I kept consistent was my direct mail for sellers, right? Have a seller pipeline coming in. If there's deals coming in, there's always buyers around. So I just started streamlining the seller side. And then on the buy side, I actually handled that myself with my team, Vanessa, and another person, an assistant.
That's interesting because you've always been really good, from what I can tell, with building relationships with buyers. Mm-hmm. And why is that so important? And why do you still – I'm not saying that's like you still manage that, but like you're still actively, closely involved with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, here, listen, at the end of the day, go to any business and say, if you have too many buyers, are you going to go out of business? Right? Like businesses don't go out of business because they have a lot of buyers. They go out of business because they don't have buyers. And I think the problem is what I see in businesses in general is a lot of people are trying to, and again, there's a point in time to systematize some of this stuff, but really it's about connecting to people and really understanding what their needs and wants are. And a lot of times people think it's just about money. The truth is it's about convenience, simplicity, money sometimes, legacy, tax deductions. I mean, there's a lot, especially in real estate, there's a lot of different reasons why people want to buy our kind of asset.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So you start traveling around the country. Mm-hmm. You start getting the travel bug.
Yeah.
And you and Dina start going pretty much literally, not kidding, all over the world. Yeah. And you're still running your business while you're traveling. Talk about that. Yeah. And if you could, Mark, talk a little bit about some of the, the challenges that you had.
Oh, yeah.
While learning how to do that.
Well, the challenges, especially for someone that was such a heavy, hardcore micromanager, Superman effect kind of business owner, save it at the 11th hour kind of deal person, is it really created these massive constraints where it forced me to get tighter with my conversations on the front end with my team, start building out processes, procedures, only connect with me if this happens or that happens, everything else I don't want to hear about. So, I mean, massive, like think you're having a heart attack, right? You're massive compulsing. You're like, oh my God, hyperventilating. Your heart is like about to explode. You're just anxious, anxiety attacks. And those are real, by the way. I've had many, many, many of those. Dry heaving at night. My first 6 months, every other night I was dry heaving because I think I'm losing everything. The world's coming to an end. I'm not worth this. Why am I being selfish with my business? I've worked so hard to get here. Why am I going to let it go? And the truth is actually for a nanosecond, it kind of had a blip in it. But the truth is it created so much mind power of like how important like all these systems, processes, and procedures are.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's another thing I didn't even mention in the introduction is you're really probably one of the smartest guys I know when it comes to systems in real estate. And if we had 5 or 6 hours for this podcast, maybe we would scratch the surface of what you do, the systems that you've set up. And literally, Mark, I'm not trying to be a brown noser here, but it sounds like I am. So whatever, I don't care. I literally know people, guys, that come to Mark from all over the country to sit down with him for a couple hours and talk to him about systems, business, building a team. How do you do what you do? How can you help me with my business? I mean, I'm talking like successful people coming to Mark for advice. So I'm glad to have you on this podcast.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And not only that, guys, like the good thing about successful people is, the best clients we could ever have, Joe, are people that are slow learners with money, right? Kind of joking, sort of. But at the end of the day, no, successful people know that they don't know everything, right? So I hire people. Actually, I leave next week to go to a 100K group I belong to. I have 100K a year. It's 3 meetings a year. That's it.
You have to pay the guys. You have to pay $100,000 a year to get to go to these meetings.
Yeah, 3 meetings a year, 2 days each meeting. But Cal, you're not paying for who's in there. You're paying for who's not in there, right? You're paying for the conversations are just elevated, creates peer pressure, right? Because I want to step up to the game with my peers, and we could be down here doing double digits, and they're up here doing quadruple digits, kind of thing. But for me, it's like, I want to sit down. I love helping the people want to help themselves. It's the most fulfilling thing that we get to do, honestly.
Totally. Yeah. You're totally right. Okay. So Mark, you're traveling around the country. What did your business look like? Were you doing wholesaling, turnkeys? Were you still buying and holding? What kind of real estate deals were you guys doing?
I was doing all 3, actually. I mean, we were buying. So in business, right, again, just to step back 1 second, my team helped me build the systems. I'm not good at systems. I'm good at yellow notepad and paper and flip phone, but I understand the sequence of the system, right, if that makes sense.
So First of all, when did you finally sell or throw away your flip phone, Mark?
I haven't thrown it away. I'm going to keep it, but I about 2.5, 3 years ago, right? It's been a big transition. So I'm still trying to figure it out here today. But for me, my team's amazing. Peter, my COO, engineer mindset from, Penn State and all that. He's very good at all that. And everyone on my team's awesome. But
good.
What was the question again? Oh,
what kind of deals were you doing? What did your business look like?
So again, I was selling a lot of lots. I was selling a lot of wholesale properties. And then we were doing turnkey and kind of hold for myself. Actually, the way my turnkey company came about is because I was my own client, right? I was buying and holding from afar, and I started feeling the challenges, bad management, bad contractors, and just figuring out all those pieces. So we started hiring layers of people to manage on top of that. So I want to manage people, not tenants, if that makes sense. I want to manage the managers, let the managers deploy out and do what they're great at. So what I was doing is I was literally getting property in from our acquisition side. This is old school, charts and emails or whatever back then. Flip phone, do a telecall every day or every other day. And then I would sell the assets or create buyer opportunities through the webinars or telecalls. Hey guys, we have a 3-bed on the west side of Columbus. Here's what it looks like, blah, blah, blah. By the way, we couldn't show pictures. We couldn't show anything. This is way old school. And then you stimulate, which is not a bad thing, actually. It stimulates curiosity. Yeah. You can extract and have a conversation. And you just talk to them. If it fit for them, I'd actually hand it off to Vanessa and the assistant, and they'd close the deal out.
Nice.
But I led the buyer pack for a long, long time.
So what does your business look like now? How many deals are you guys flipping or buying right now in Ohio?
Yeah, so the team's done 20 to 30 deals a month consistently. Back in, last year, we're about 50 to 60 a month. We've kind of changed our model up a little bit just because we're very heavy in Columbus, which is a great rehab, retail, hotel market. And we're spending a lot of time and energy there. We do Columbus and Cleveland and pretty heavy. We have a lot of turnkey assets in both of those markets. So what we're always doing is now we're asking, okay, it's not just about quantity, it's about quality. Right. And I think, sometimes it's not cool to tell Joe like, I went from 60 deals to 25 deals this month. Right. It's kind of a mental thing. And again, but our profits as a company is drastically growing
really
with less stress. Right. And I think that's where people forget to talk about. It's like, it's not just about what you've done or what you're doing or what you're making. It's about what you're keeping and what you're able to do with that time that you have on your own.
Nice. Yeah. Real smart. I want to ask you a bunch of questions about how you build a team, how you build a good team around you. But can you talk a little bit first about you're doing 20, 30 deals a month, mainly selling good rental properties to landlords, right?
Actually, yeah, probably half is wholesale and hotel markets as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Can you talk about the advantages and disadvantages of Class C versus Class B neighborhoods? There's a lot going on in the internet circles right now about can you really make money with Class C properties? And is it, some people are getting in trouble for selling crappy rentals to landlords. You know what I'm saying? And I know you know of some of these people. Talk about like how you've been able to stay above the fray and
yeah, listen, I don't think it matters what location it is. I think it matters on what expectations and what management looks like. Management, first of all, I don't own management companies. I've never made a dime off of management companies. I always think there's a little bit of a cross problem if you have management in this, because you sell an asset and then you're dinging them every month for money plus rehab plus repairs and all that. So I've always kept myself third party from that piece, even though sometimes I'd love to own it because I could give much better processes, give a little bit more controls. But again, that is not our core ability. It's a whole nother animal. But listen, if you opened up a Subway franchise in an A class and or C class, they both work if you have good management and understanding of how the systems work in that kind of environment. So what's the product look like? Maybe in a C property, you're not going to put granite. Maybe in the B you will. Maybe in the A you definitely will. And then, what's the expectations? Are they paying rent on time? As a marketer too, Joe, I think there's a lot of cool things we could do as a marketer, and we're working on this now even more. It's about how to incentivize the tenants to be honest, hardworking, pay on time, give them gift certificates, incentivize them to pay on time and all that. And in these markets as well, like a lot of people just kind of like rent it. If you don't pay it, you're kicked out. And they know that's just a cycle, an ever evolving cycle. So how do we get people to stay in these properties? I have tenants that's been in our properties for 19 years and above.
Wow.
So not everybody, I wish everyone, but there's a large portion, 2, 3, 4, 5 years deep. And then management will always make or break everything we're talking about though. It's not necessarily the market. It's always management, honestly. But
by the way, I love that idea of just treating your tenants nicely, being a nice guy. I used to give my tenants, I had about 16 properties before the market crashed. I used to give them if they paid their rent on time, I'd give them a $25 gift certificate to Pizza Hut.
Nice.
You know what? They loved that. If they were a second late on their rent, they would call me and apologize so profusely. I'm so sorry I'm late. Can I please have my gift certificate? And I'd give it to them anyway. And then there were a couple times when I was like a day or two late in mailing it to them. Right. And they would call me and say, hey, Joe, where's the gift certificate? You don't think about like how big those little things are.
Well, listen, in these kind of markets, depending on the situation, I mean, a dinner is a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, to the management's credit as well, again, I'm not giving them any outs, but managing properties is probably one of the hardest businesses out there. Owners don't call you and say you're doing a good job, and tenants don't call you and say you're doing a good job. The only time you're hearing from these people is when you're getting screamed at. So they're always in crisis mode, always, like from my experience. And I've went through many, many, many management companies. So it's like trying to get them, how do you hand stuff off their plate? They got to be, it's a whole nother animal.
Yeah. Okay, good. As a follow-up, kind of what I just asked, what kind of properties are you recommending to folks right now? If you got a guy who wants to get into the business, has got some money to spend, wants to buy some rentals, what are you recommending to them right now to buy?
I think honestly, start with them. What are their expectations? The problem is where I see why people get in trouble, like overselling, right? They're like, I want 20% return and I want B class. Doesn't exist, especially on a passive environment, maybe active or maybe a little bit of a hybrid of that. But if you're looking for like B class, expect 8 to 10%. If you're looking for a C, a C plus-ish, you might be able to get to 10 or 12%. So, and again, what's the quality of the product? Is there potential upside potential? And this is investing, right? So I know some people get in trouble for like selling assets and they're not what they're supposed to be, but like at the end of the day, you're an adult and no one's holding a gun to your head to buy this asset. And oh, by the way, if this asset goes to 100,000, you paid 50, now all of a sudden you're the genius, but yet when it goes to 40,000, now all of a sudden we're the devil, so no one has a magic 8-ball. And unfortunately we live in a culture in a world where people just don't accept responsibilities for their actions.
Well, you're absolutely 100% right. But we still have to be careful as turnkey providers, as wholesalers, to under-promise and over-deliver. And I know that's one of your big philosophies.
Sure.
Because if you don't do that, and you're promising the rents are going to be 800, and really they're just 700, that makes a big difference in your ROI calculations.
Oh, I mean, listen, that's just, no one should do that, period, right? But that's basic math 101. I think where I see a lot of people getting in trouble in the turnkey space is owners, we assume owners make decisions like we make decisions. So Joe, if you're an owner from us and you bought a C-class property and the management company emails you, Joe, we need your authority to put this new hot water tank in, it's $500, and it takes you 7 days to respond, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And the truth is that happens like 85% of the time. It's not even a little bit of time. It's a lot of time. As an owner, you have to be on top of it. Actually, we give our teams authority. If it needs fixed, fix it. Not all, like I said, a large percentage of owners don't do that.
Yeah, that's good.
So
have you written any books, Mark, about managing property, managing a rental portfolio, or do you know of any books that you might recommend for that?
I really don't know any, honestly. I started a book called The AWB Way. I've never finished it. It was about our company. Started writing it 5 years ago, and really just talking about the mind. Again, it's all mindset stuff, right? Because we have some owners that if they're short 12 cents on their report in their mind, they blow up management. And it's like, it's 12 cents. Get over it. And then you have the guy that you'll never hear from, right? So I'm typically that kind of owner. I look at reports, and if it is what it is, right? I can't change a toilet repair. I can manage it, but I can't change it. I could send an email and say, hey, Joe, thanks for making that toilet repair. I'm glad the tenant's happy. However, it's the fourth time this year. Maybe there's a toilet issue. Maybe there's a tenant issue. Like, can you give me some heads up? Being a little bit more. I think the proactive effect is really lacking on management side by far.
I agree. Okay, good. Got a bunch more questions, Mark, and I know your time's valuable. I got about 5-6 minutes.
Okay.
So one of the things that you inspired me with a long, long time ago, and I don't even know if you remember, I flew down to I was in Florida for some reason, and we were talking about flying coach versus first class. I don't know if you remember this. And like,
with the W, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I do remember.
And you were talking to me about why you fly first class. Mm-hmm. And you really kind of like, whoa, I'd never heard of that perspective before. And not all the time, but most of the time now I'm flying first class. And I find that for me mentally, with what it does to my mindset, what it does to making me think bigger, like, okay, well, I'm flying first class. I'm thinking about how can I make this money back, this extra money that I'm spending. It gives me more time to think. I feel more refreshed and relaxed. Can you talk about that for a minute? Your philosophy on things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, listen, I think everyone's out there saying, hey, how you do one thing is how you do all things, right? And if you treat yourself first class, you're going to treat your clients first class, you're going to treat your team first class, you're going to treat everybody first class. So, some people say, oh, that's stuck up. Truth is, I fly more private now than I do even commercial. But again, I'm changing as a person. I'm growing. I'm learning about it. It still scares me when you're cutting massive wires out to people to fly only 3 hours. You're like, oh my God, it's a lot of money. And I'm still like, it's a process, but you're meeting different people in first class. I think you value yourself. And if you've ever been stuck on a tarmac for 3 hours and you're not sitting in first class, you know what I mean? They're not serving food in the coach. First class, they're giving you drinks and food and snacks and making sure you're comfortable and all that. So that's happened to us with the baby on the board. So it's kind of a big deal. But again, at the end of the day, I don't even know any other class exists now on a plane because I don't search anything else but first class. So I wouldn't even know the price differences.
It's I flew to Spain once about 2 or 3 years ago. I did a workshop in Barcelona.
Oh, nice.
And in fact, we should talk about maybe doing one in Spain or in England. I know some people there that can hook us up. But anyway, I flew first class, and I was so glad I did. It was probably an extra $4,000 or $5,000. But you know what happened? We had a delay, right? And all of a sudden, I missed my connecting flight, so I had to spend the night in the airport. Mm-hmm. I actually had a 6-hour layover. So when I went into the first class lounge, mm-hmm. I was able to take a shower in a private shower. Yep. I was able to take a nap in my own private room. Yep. And I was able to eat some really nice food. And I got to that workshop just in time. And I tell you, man, I was refreshed. I was excited. I was able to deliver a ton of really good value to the folks there. And, while I was flying first class even, I was able to think about my business and plan and strategize and yeah. think about so much easier. It was well worth every single penny. And I want to encourage a lot of you guys out there on this podcast listening to this, thinking about that. How much more productive can you be if you start acting like the business you want to have? Yep. Acting like the person you want to become.
Absolutely. And not only that, they don't build first class for nobody. It's for somebody. Why not you? At the end of the day, it's like, what are we doing all this work for?
Yeah.
To schlep around?
Yeah.
I know Tim Ferriss talks about getting best deals in the back seat. I'm not that guy. And again, it's not for everybody, but I can tell you, I've flown coach and I've flown first class. First class is way better.
Right. Okay, good. I want to talk about your team, Mark. Can you just touch on this a little bit? How do you find good people for your team?
Man, you got to always hire fast, fire fast. I think, and I still suck at firing fast because I'm a very emotional business owner. I care about people a lot. But, find people with good skill sets, not even just necessarily good skill sets, but good, positive, honest, ethical people, hardworking people. I have a tendency to lean towards Midwest people for some reason. They just have a different work ethic from my experience. I don't do that on purpose. I'm just kind of attracted to them. But, I have multiple COOs. I have different people in different roles, from sales to assistant roles to disposition roles to accounting roles. And, I think it's just kind of hiring and firing and just learning as you grow. But we only are as good as we become as a person, right, as a leader. So I think that has a lot to do with, because hiring's easy. Then you have the next layer of managing, and then also retaining.
Do you manage? Do you feel like you're a good manager of your team?
Terrible.
Really?
Oh, I'm terrible at managing people. I'm really good at retaining, but terrible at managing. I'm not good at the day-to-day stuff. I'm really not. I don't get excited when you call me up and say, hey, nothing's happening. I'm like, what the hell? Why not? Why aren't you on the phone? Get on the phone. Let's make some deals, blah, blah, blah. That's not good managing skill set. It's more like, well, tell me about what's going on, Joe. Give me the breakdown. The data, not drama effect. And that's kind of why I had to really go to data, not drama, because I really get, oh my God, my husband's sick as a dog. My grandfather's about to die. My dog's sick. And then I buy into it. And then 3 weeks later, they're still not doing anything.
You stole my thunder, Mark.
Uh-oh.
Actually, I stole your thunder. I've borrowed that phrase so many times, data, not drama.
Right.
Can you talk about that a little bit? What does data, not drama mean?
Yeah, again, if you've ever had any kind of employees or people that you've worked with, tenants or whatever, they're going to give you all this drama of why something can't be done, and or hiring and firing as well. Like it takes a lot of the emotion out of hiring and firing and keeping people by data. How many calls are you making, right? If you say, hey, I need to do 10 deals a month, and I know you need to make 100 calls per deal. You need to make 1,000 calls a month, and we're on the 25th and you've only made 300 calls. We have an issue, because you're not going to make 700 calls in the next 5 days, especially if you've only done 300 in the first 25. So you got kind of going through there and just focusing on the data, and let the data give you direction and confidence, and hire or fire through that.
And you guide your decisions for your business.
Well, listen, as a leader, our job is not to protect the individual, but the company as a whole. So I don't make decisions based off emotionals and the drama one-on-one. I'm really looking to the global picture. Are they affecting, you're only as good as your weakest link in anything, let alone the business. So I'm looking for the weakest link, trying to either figure out how to uplift them and or get them out.
That's really good. And especially when it comes to knowing your numbers, you're huge on that. Like what marketing is working, what isn't working. And what is our cost per lead? How many average leads do we need per contract? Can you talk a little bit about the numbers that you're specifically looking for?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily in the weeds on the marketing side as much as I used to be. I'm more focused on, like I always talk, if you're on an island for 10 minutes, who are you talking to? What numbers are you hearing as your KPIs, key performance indicators? So I'm more listening, like how many deals closed, how many deals got contracted, how many calls got made. I can kind of get like a gist of, where things are going tomorrow, next week, next month. Where you see a lot of times, right, Joe, in our business is a delayed effect, right? So when a deal, if you make 100 grand this week, it didn't happen this week. It probably happened 30 days prior. So we got to be conscious of that as we're developing and growing and knowing just like what these data points mean. But everyone interprets data differently.
Nice. Okay, good. Mark, we got to go. I wish we had more time.
Okay.
You're big on Instagram. You're out there on Facebook a lot. You have a great entertaining channel on Instagram. How do people find you there?
Again, Mark Evans DM. That's the best way to find me on any kind of social media platform. And I'd love to interact with you. Let me know you came from here, and I'll hook them up too. I got 2 good reports I could share with them from the book, Joe, if they let me know they came from your show. So just let me know, and then I can shoot you guys 2 things of 1, KPIs, kind of what KPIs are, and then 2, the path to $1 million in your business.
All right. So they contact you on Instagram or Facebook. Mm-hmm. Do you have a website you want to give out, Mark, or?
Yeah, 10minutebusinessowner.com as well. Get over there, opt in, and we're sharing data and information over there on a consistent basis.
10minutebusinessowner.com. Mark Evans DM. If you look him up on Instagram, you'll see him. Follow him. Follow him on Facebook as well. You get a lot of good inspirational nuggets from Mark that he starts talking about, and you'll always laugh whenever he says peace.
Exactly.
which I roll my eyes and laugh every time you say that. So peace. All right. Hey,
Awesome.
thanks a lot, Mark. Appreciate you being on the show. And a lot of people have been commenting down below in the Facebook group. I shared it with you, so you should see it there. Some people are asking you about your cigars. And so if you want, go in there and respond to them about your cigars and tell them what you like. But
awesome.
hey, thanks again, Mark. We'll talk to you soon, man. Take care.
Thank you, Joe. Peace.
Peace.
Later, buddy. Thank you, guys.
See ya.